I apologize for that. The internet went down. And probably just a moment to really remind me to bring myself down and bring my energy down when things are going too quick. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so we return to finding balance. So anytime that these energies are either excessive or deficient in our body, there's always a way of finding equilibrium. And the plants that we eat, the foods that we eat, the medicines that we take into our body, the different exercises that we're doing, all help us to find and rebalance this state of homeostasis. And not only do these plants and animals and information that we're taking in from what we perceive as the outside, not only do they have something to teach us in our physicality and just through the nutrients that they deliver to our different systems, but when we observe them in nature, there's also a lot of information that we have to learn from these different plants. And, again, a lot of this could be looked at as kind of like, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. People want to see the pantheon. That's not what I wanted to say. But when we personify plants, let's say, we understand the archetype of them and be able to learn from what they're teaching us, right? So when we look and we observe fire, one of my favorite things to do when I'm camping during the summer is to have fires, and actually any time of year. And if you look at the fire and how it rages and it dances in just like this really free moving way where it's like pure creative force because it's just going and it's moving. There's nothing that's inhibiting it. And it's such a strong and powerful element. I mean, it blows my mind. I'm always just like, I have no idea how fire works. And then to realize that same fire quality exists within me, it exists within every single cell in my body as energy is being created. Like, wow. To be able to honor that elemental quality that exists within us is a huge place of being able to honor ourselves as in our highest potential and as a miracle force. So when the fire is burning too hot, though, we can see, how do I bring that into balance? Especially when it's this Aries quality that accumulates in the head and within the immune system and can, create spasms in our muscles. Some of my favorite herbal remedies for this is skullcap, especially if you have tension headaches or if you have restless sleep. Skullcap is one of the most nourishing plants that you can bring into it. If you have I have Mercury and Aries. So that's my mind. My mind can be super sharp and just like very stimulated. And so skullcap is one of those things where I'm just like, I take a drop of it and I'm like, oh, just feels so good, so nourishing and soothing. And it's like my mind can just like take like one little tiny niche down when it gets too inflamed. Milky oats is also a really great one because it not only nourishes kind of like the nervous system, but it has that effect on the adrenal glands. It also has a very cooling and moistening quality to it. So that can really help to bring moisture into the dryness of the excess heat and to just like that relaxation state. Passion flower are really another great one with the affinity for the head. Licorice. Licorice is used in Ayurveda to kind of add to a lot of different formulas, and it's known as like a synergizer. And part of the reason is because it helps to, even though licorice, I would consider it to be somewhat of a warming plant, it's very like nourishing in terms of the moisture that it can bring to a system. Lavender is really great to add for kind of that cooling quality and a softening quality. Cilantro, very cooling herb again. Aloe vera, especially Mr. Noni. Aloe vera and noni. He wanted to come because he knew I was going to say his name. Noni is a tropical fruit, so if you live in tropical places where you can get it, it really, I think you could use it for any archetypal imbalance or balance. It's just so nutritive. If you have like a lot of heat inflammation in the skin, it helps to like nourish that as well. And it can work for excess of Aries as well as deficiency, because when you consume the noni, even though it's kind of that clearing and cleansing and cooling for your blood system, I really feel kind of the stimulating quality in my solar plexus and in kind of like that feeling of vitality that it brings. And then the foods that are really good for balancing the Aries archetype is going to be things like cucumber, dandelion greens, lemons, oats, buckwheat, coconut, and whether it's coconut milk or coconut oil, or coconut water, all of these things are super, super nourishing to bringing hydration and coolness, as well as the electrolytes to be able to feed those into the bloodstream and into the immune system. Beans like green beans, celery, spinach, a lot of these things that have a lot of water in them. And then for people who have a lot of excess of the Aries energy, have a tendency to run too hot, I would actually, even though I think organ meats and red meat is really good for most people, I think that when there's an excess of this Aries energy, that incorporating more fish and more oysters and these things that, you know, kind of carry this freshness type of energy with them or come from the sea are really beneficial, as well as asparagus. And asparagus is actually pretty good archetype for an Aries plant, because if you've ever seen it grow, it's just like this spear that goes right through the ground, and it's just full of like this sweetness and like minerally taste when you eat it. Fresh asparagus is the best thing ever. And then bee pollen. Bee pollen is full of copper, which will help to balance out the iron or iron overload that might happen with excessive Aries energy in the body. And then lentils are a really great thing for nourishment here. For that deficiency, if you're feeling that lack of vitality and wanting to stimulate and bring more of that into your energy, herbs like ashwagandha, cayenne pepper, nettles, coca, and then lion's mane, agrimony, and ginger. These are things that are really going to help to kind of stimulate and bring a little bit of that vitality and that rising energy. Black pepper, things like horseradish too are really nourishing here. Foods to be able to start to build that Agni is mustard greens, arugula, nettles, liver, and organ meats. Fantastic for people, especially if they suffer from things like anemia or that lack of energy. Organ meats are so full of like vitamin A and so many of the B nutrients that are super, super necessary for our energy reserves. Dandelion greens, chilies, moringa, ramps, garlic, and then red meat, just bringing in kind of that, the protein to be able to really support muscle development and our strength and vitality. And one of the things that I want you to witness within this list of different foods and stuff is that a lot of the plants that I'm naming here, they're some of the first plants that we get in the springtime, which is super, super incredible. I always think my teacher, Paul Red Elk, he always said that whatever it is that we're dealing with in our physical body, oftentimes when we walk outside, the plant that we need, whether it's the plant that we need for the environment or for our body or for our psychological like nutrition, is going to be in the environment. And I think about that in the springtime. Asparagus, dandelion, these are some of the first plants that just emerge through the ground, even when there's still snow on the ground. And that is like also too where, going back to this part of like these plants they teach us a lot when we're very conscious about how we're bringing them into our body and how they're making us feel and how they're altering our consciousness. But we can go out to nature and you can watch a dandelion grow. And a dandelion, I think, is one of the few plants that can go from like nothing to in bloom within a single day. And you see, it's that arrow. It's like, there's so much of this determination for it to like poke out of the ground and to blossom. And it's really incredible. And I encourage people for, for the month to just go and to be able to sit with a plant and observe it, or watch videos about it, read about its botany, and then see not only like the botanical and biological effects of it, but look at it as an entire energetic being. When it comes to minerals, so there was a researcher who was, I think he like burnt down human flesh into like crystalline mineral salts, and he found 13 mineral salts, I believe, or 12, and each one is related to a different sign of the zodiac. And it's often said that people that are born in the month of Aries, let's say, are deficient in this mineral that is associated with it, oftentimes because that's when they were born. That's when they emerged. So they weren't receiving that nutrient from their mother in that form, the cell salt. So potassium phosphate is correlated with the Aries archetype and energy. It's primarily concentrated in our brain, nerve, muscle, and blood cells. When we ingest this mineral salt, it supports any tension and stress, especially associated with the head. This can come from anxiety, or this can produce anxiety, as well as like the muscles. And it's a super supportive to nervous exhaustion. One of the main complaints of people with a lot of Aries is that heat excitation. So this mineral salt, the potassium phosphate, is really able to help support people with adrenal burnout or that nervous exhaustion energy. And you can just, if you're curious to pick up any of these mineral salts, they sell them, and they're called biosalts or biocell salts. But you can just research them on Amazon. They carry them inside most Whole Foods or health food shops, or co-ops will carry them, and they are like in these little rectangle type of bottles with blue and red. You'll find them. All right. So some of the somatic practices for helping with the Aries energy, and really all of the energies, is first a body scan. And if you can get with a partner and ask them to do this with you maybe once a week, just have it or you can record yourself doing this and then listen to it once a week, twice a week, but it's a guided body scan. And when you're doing the guided body scan, it really is just bringing you in tune with what the state of your body is at any given moment. This is actually a really beautiful thing to do both prior to eating and after eating. I know sometimes if you're super hungry, or if you're around a lot of people, you're not going to like necessarily stop and like do a whole body scan. But this is the reason why so many cultures have prayer or have like intention over when they eat or consume a food. It's to ground yourself, to be like, wow, I'm going to be present with what it is that I'm about to bring in my body. And it's getting an awareness of like, where am I? Where is the state of my body? Am I in this place where I'm like already super hot and stimulated, or, what is the quality, and am I actually able to receive right now? This is a super important thing to ask ourselves. Am I able to receive right now? Because I don't know how many times that I have gone and maybe I've had like a bad day, or I've had an argument with my partner, and then I go to like eat something and I'm just stewing on it, and I'm just like, and I realize that like I either am like still hungry at the end of the meal because I've burned through it, or I start to feel indigestion, or I'm like, oh man, this is really hard for me to to digest. And it's not just that I'm having a hard time digesting the food. It's like I'm having a hard time digesting like where I was in that frame of mind. So this ability to do this guided body scan, especially before eating and after eating, and just bringing to that place of just like, what am I feeling in my body? And with Aries, if you close your eyes and you just breathe, where am I feeling the fire in my system? Do I feel it in my belly? Do I feel it in my heart? When I think of that Mars yang energy, upward moving force, where do I feel myself wanting to be animated? Where am I feeling frustration and anger? And where is that anchored in my body? What and how do I feel like I can actually release that? And through that, my boyfriend was just waving to me from the outside. Where am I feeling the passion? And where am I feeling the fire? And where am I feeling the annoyances? When you feel where that Aries energy is arising in your body, and then how do you want to move that and shake that and feel that and have it move through you in a way where you're not creating more destruction, or you're not creating more catabolism, and you're not just suffocating it and repressing it. Because that's so much what happens, especially, I'm going to say, especially for people who identify in more of the yin spectrum. There is this way in which we feel that energy and that vitality in our system, and then we're told that it's wrong. We're told not to feel that fire or that passion, or not to be aggressive or self-assertive, that we need to be contained and put in a box. And so when you reconnect with this Aries energy, and when you're connecting with the foods that are helping to nourish it and alter your consciousness, where does that energy and that vital force actually want to go and play? Where does it want to go? What does it want to do? What does it want to create? What does it want to spark and put into initiation? Of course, we'll see as we go around the zodiacal wheel that there is other integration points. Once we initiate something, we really got to check, is this something that I actually can ground down? It's going to come in Taurus season. But here it's like, right now, what is your creative and life force wanting to do? Where are you wanting to feel passion again? Where do you feel angry and feel stifled and feel like this energy can't move? Another thing that anger, what's oftentimes associated with the Aries and Mars energy, is really good for is being able to understand where our boundaries are. I learned that from my therapist. She was like, you're feeling angry? It's okay to feel angry. What that is signaling to you is that you have a boundary that is being crossed. Also, too, anger can arise in us when we are feeling threatened. It's the body's natural defense mechanism, this Aries quality to be able to stand up for oneself and also for other people and be like, no, I'm not standing for this. It can show up sometimes like when we're in the car and there's like a little bit of road rage, which has to be obviously tampered down. But sometimes I think of that like, whoa, I just like gave this person the finger and I like yelled at them, but why did I get so stimulated when I was driving? Oh, that's actually a really healthy expression of the Aries quality, because that pulled me into alertness, because I almost got driven off the road, or I almost got hit, or whatever it is. Like that Aries quality energy, you can see that it's like, it's nothing to fear. It's actually something to super embrace, because it is such an intelligent mechanism within our system. Another way to really nourish this Aries quality within our system is to do head massages. Whether it is having a partner do it or just practicing like a daily, like when you're in, like even when you're in bed or you're in the shower, take 2 minutes to massage your head. Feel like where there's tension, feel where there might be heat. I know that I have a tendency to clench my jaw, and that really will affect like this part of my brain, or when I'm feeling worried or stressed about things. Mercury and Aries, there's this tension and this kind of the inflammation that I can sometimes feel in the vessels of my head. So if I take that moment to just allow myself to massage my spine and witness how it cools down like my stress response, and it can help to cool down the body. Another practice to bring into the embodiment of Aries qualities is to work with sacred rage. And that's kind of what I was also getting at with the body scan, and feeling into like where that passion is, where that vitality feels stifled, and where you might feel inhibited in any way. And know that that rage is super, super powerful. That cardinal fire energy is so necessary to be able to spark ourselves into action in any place in our life that we're feeling disempowered. And a lot of the time it's like due to ourselves, because we've been told messages from when we were young to where we are now, and we continue to believe them. And we reinforce those beliefs of no, it's better to be quiet. It's better to not be brave. It's better to be safe. It's better to just like cool down my energy. And we can project it onto other people and be like, they're putting me in a box, they're stifling my energy. But the truth is, only you can do that to yourself. And so this Aries embodiment and working with sacred rage is allowing yourself to feel that anger. You can do it through dancing with fire, is one of my favorite practices, is where you put on one of the most fiery songs that you can think of, and you just allow your body to shake. You allow your vital force, you allow your body to get really hot, and just allow that to dance like fire. When you watch fire, like I was talking about with a campfire, and just watching how the fire just like, it'll kind of go like, it'll sometimes look like it's like moving slow and then it goes really fast. But there's that vitality and force and that exists within us. And when you're able to bring that forth in a creative way, it's amazing. To work with that sacred rage too is like, you can take a pillow and you can pound the pillow. You can scream into it. Don't do it with other people. You can channel that sacred rage. And that if you allow yourself to do that for 5 minutes, whether it's with the pillow and whether it's with hitting or whether that's with like dancing, other things are just like other sports that like help to move your blood and your circulatory system. You can do it in a class setting, but I think it's really powerful when we can give ourselves time to be able to do it. Because then the other part that's really important is the integration piece. After you dance, after you do the sacred rage, to be able to sit, and sometimes tears will come up, sometimes creative ideas will come up, and be able to sit and journal those things down so that those are oftentimes what's indicative to be able to like move you forward on those projects. And remember that all the food support and the herbal support and things that you're doing on this level are going to help to support these somatic experiences and integration. Posturing is another Aries type of embodiment that I think is really great. And we'll probably do posturing with the rest of the archetypes as well. But posturing means when you feel into that fire, into that vital force, notice like how you're standing. If you're about to go into a meeting at work or something where you really have to be able to articulate yourself and assert yourself in any way, or something that you're feeling like you're super passionate about and you need to take action on, being able to posture yourself is super important. And that could look like just standing with like the screen's too short, but standing with like your hands on your hips, with your chest out, with that very erect spine, and just staring forward. And you could do this in front of the mirror, which would be super powerful. Just being able to look and just like feel like this fierce warrior that is like within you, and like, I have the power to generate force and energy, and I have the plants and everything else that I've been working with this Aries archetype and month, and I can embody that any moment that I'm feeling fearful, any moment that I'm feeling stagnant. I can bring and I can take this nourished energy and that what's part of me, and I can assert myself forward through the embodiment of this practice. And another really cool somatic exercise that would be good to carry forward is called fear setting. This was first introduced to me through the Tim Ferriss podcast. And fear setting means that instead of goal setting, because we all got goals and things that we want to accomplish in life, but those are things that we're like wanting to. The fear setting means that like every single day to have not just like goals for the day, but to have something you do that fucking scares you. And this could be something simple as talking to someone that you find attractive. This could be something like asking for a free coffee. This could be something like wearing a really ugly sweater and going to a place where you care about where like what people think of you. But doing these things that scare you, it could be fasting. It could be eating a food that you're uncomfortable with. I don't know. It could like whatever it is that like you're afraid of. It could be bringing up something with a conversation with your partner, or like speaking a desire of like, hey, I want to try this thing. But putting yourself in the place where you're facing a fear, it could be writing an email, writing your newsletter, whatever it is. Face a fear every single day and bring that Aries energy towards it. And the more that we face these, the more we're courageous in kind of our day to day, the more we're able to work with this Aries energy, and the things become less severe because we know and we build evidence for why we can overcome fear. Those are just somatic experiences. I would say for the month, choose 3 of these things. Choose 3 of these things that you're going to carry forward. And then the integration piece. When you're doing these somatic practices, when you're taking in these foods, when you're observing this energy out in nature, when you go back and re-listen to this, and when you're feeling the fire energy within you, when you're feeling that Mars quality, bring a notebook around with you. This is like your homework. Carry a notebook wherever you go. You can use your phone too, but I know how distracting phones can be. But if you bring a notebook and you just write fire, cardinal, Mars, write that on top of it, and Aries, and observations for every time that you see something in nature, or you see something in your environment, or you have an emotion that correlates with that Aries energy, make a note and document your experience. It's the same thing when you're eating or you're ingesting any of these Aries quality herbs and plants and foods. Write down how you felt before, write down how you felt afterwards. You don't have to, take meticulous notes, but a general observation. And I know that it's similar to like when we witness our dreams and we write down our dreams. The more we observe, the more that we correlate, the more that we create connections, the more that it is integrated into our system, and it just becomes something that is so innate and intuitive that eventually we don't need the documentation. But to be able to bring that awareness and put it into like a solid structured form is really, really powerful. Nourishment, awareness, and experimentation, the environment relationship. So as spring is emerging, as the sun and the days are getting longer, observe how your energy is. I know that I've only been back in Colorado for a month, but I know when it gets sunny outside, I get so eager to go outside because it's been unusually gray for Colorado or Boulder area. It's usually pretty sunny. That anytime the sun's out, I'm like, I go on hikes and I'm gone all day long. And then I have a tendency to burn myself out a little bit because I just want to go, 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 go. So notice your relationship to the environment. I also notice that I haven't been drinking enough water. I haven't been taking enough things that really help to moisten and cool my system. So I've had to bring that in. I've cut out coffee because I've really realized that that Aries energy was, I was wanting to prolong it because I love that feeling of vitality and energy, but I was at a state of adrenal fatigue. So I'm on green tea now, which is still pretty delicious, um, but a different quality of energy. So recognize your relationship to the environment and, notice, does your body run hot, dry, um, tense, relaxed, and the environment around you. Colorado's dry. Right now it's cold and it feels pretty tense. And so for me, I can see, okay, like where can I bring in Aries to nurture certain parts and where can I bring in more nourishing things to, also bring that warming quality. Um, meditation with fire. Again, this all goes back into the observation. Um, yeah, and I think the one, you know, going back to review all of this as we're incorporating and integrating all these different pieces is I love this image that is actually behind on the slide because this is also one of the purest forms of the Aries energy, that vital force energy that is ready to initiate life. And the glyph of Aries is the ram, right? But you can see even here, there's that two the two leaves. There was so much vital force that was trapped inside that seed. And when it finally received enough pressure and cooking, it sprouted and it sprouts into these two initial leaves. And that's that Aries energy. It's that upward force. It's ready to go. And so, as you're nourishing yourself with plants that embody the same feeling, as you're feeling into the qualities of excess and deficiency, and you're making your observations, and you're a living embodiment of this zodiacal season, really take time as you're journaling and making these observations and feeling into this sensation that, like, you doing this work actually doing the work, taking these practices and bringing it into a framework for understanding life is so powerful. And not just powerful for how you understand yourself, but how you understand life, how you understand the people around you, how you understand anything. You know, we first go to elementary school before we can go to more complex systems. Use this elemental system to really, 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 really get back to the basics and the wonder and the magic. Bring magic back into your life through the embodiment of this zodiacal season. Um, yeah. And if you are wondering, you know, for yourself, like, I think that it's a powerful tool for just being able to observe and feel how the Aries vital force energy feels within your system. But you can also pull up your natal chart and you can see how many of my planets are in fire signs, how many of my planets are actually in the sign of Aries, what house is Aries in my chart. And, you know, I'll give the example of myself. Again, I have Aries in the fifth house, which has to do with creative life force energy. And so that fire and that passion and that vitality, I'm bringing it into that fifth house. It's oftentimes things that I create in the world, creative expression, also the hobbies that I have. I have a tendency towards, like, I'm bringing in this nourishment so I can nourish my creative force, so I can nourish um, my rock climbing or my hiking and my love of nature and being out and moving and dancing, like all of these things with the intention of putting towards that specific area of my life. So you can do that with your own chart, and I would say, just take the time to sit in that observation. And with that, before I burn out the flame, I am going to take off and I will see you next season for Taurus season. If you have any questions and whatnot, there will be a time for you to submit Q&As that I will respond to in the next few weeks. So take care and have a blessed Aries season.